Pete, you have a nutrition degree, so we kind of we're going to lean on you for this one. What say you about this sort of a thing?
And I actually do take beet juice or beet supplement, I guess, less beet juice pretty regularly. Cliff Bar also helped with this. We got a nice rundown a couple years ago on how to properly do it. Kind of one of the interesting things to me is it's a supplement like everything else, and you have to actually load it. So you have to take it for 5 or 6 days before it actually takes effect. And the other kind of hard thing, it'll be hard for Dominic to stomach, you have to take a lot. You have to... a ton. 400 milligrams of the nitrate is what you're looking for. And I think for in plain old beet juice, that's like one medium-sized beet, which is a lot. So taste-wise, sorry.
It's not
very earthy.
It's very earthy. The one last piece is you have to take it 1.5 to 2 hours before your exercise. It's really a timed release. So 6 days in a row before your target event, 1.5 to 2 hours before every time you exercise.
So not only do you have to load it, but you also have to time it.
Yep. And you have to take a lot. And I think I couldn't find any like average size riders for this one, but err on the side of higher. The more elite of an athlete you are, the more you have to take to get the benefit. So whatever your fitness level is, err on the side of caution and take more.
So we're talking like 400 milligrams of nitrates. That's quite a lot, right?
It's a lot. I think that's those little beet shots you see in the store.
Which are really concentrated.
I would still take 2
okay.
to be sure.
And if we're like juicing beets or anything like that?
I think fresh store-bought beets, one medium beet, which is like a couple bucks, is enough for 400 milligrams.
Okay.
So it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a sizable amount. One last thing is if you take caffeine, somehow the pathways don't align. And so if you're one of those people that pop a few 100 milligrams of caffeine, it sort of negates all the beet juice.
I think we know somebody like that. Yeah. Happens to be out on vacation right now.
Yeah. So I'm not a caffeine pre-racer. I don't really like the way it makes me feel for whatever reason, but I do beets. I have it in my office. I take it 2 hours before every workout I do. I swear I've read something about altitude, and I could not find anything based on altitude. I thought it was more effective at altitude.
I've heard the same.
But I could not get a white paper on it, so I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Just I'll throw it out there into the ethos. I think it's more effective for altitude rather than at sea level.
Got it. Okay. So this is something we talked about the taste being earthy and not something that's just readily palatable at first. But I've found that over time, it actually is great.
I've never found it particularly offensive. I like beets though quite a lot. So.
Yeah, so I juice them, and when I juice them, I juice the beet and the whole root. Everything else, you run the whole thing. The beet root's important to juice as well. I just have like a Breville, if that's how you say it, juicer, and I just run them through like that. If it is tough to make something that you can actually, bring down, one thing that I could recommend is I have like I guess a loose recipe of sorts that makes it a little bit easier to stomach at first. Then over time, you'll find yourself just being fine with the beets. But I'll throw in 2 beets, and these are like medium-sized beets, and then I'll throw in a whole apple. And then after the apple, I'll throw in about half a lemon, something like that. Yep. And if you want, you can throw in some carrots that can smooth things out.
Carrots I do the lemon or an orange.
Yep.
Some sort of citrus definitely helps too.
Yep, and it makes it much better. And then if you want to go the extra mile, I've also mixed that with sparkling water. Whoa. And it makes it quite refreshing. So however, just know that this doesn't keep very well because I took this to a race, kept it in a cooler. The cooler wasn't surprisingly cool. It wasn't very cool. And as a result, the beet juice did not keep. And you could tell once you opened it up, it just did not smell right. So this isn't stuff. It's kind of hard to carry with you. And that's why those beet shots are pretty handy because it's just a lot easier to take in.
And then the powdered form too, right? The Beet Elite, we've talked about that before. I think that's what Nate uses.
And there's various supplements. There is a study that shows how many milligrams is in each of those supplements. Maybe we can link in the forum, but you still have to pick the correct supplement to get enough. Some people are just making money.
Imagine that, huh? So what about on the chocolate side of things? How does that relate?
Yeah, I dug into that a bit, and then I'm a big fan of dark chocolate, and for a number of reasons, not really a performance enhancing one, just because I know it's high in a lot of favorable things. So first off, when we're talking about dark chocolate, what are we talking about? It's simply a high cacao count, or percentage, which typically I've seen people cite as low as 60%, but I think most people will agree more on like 70% cacao or higher cacao. And the study that Dominic linked to us, that's in fact what they used. They used Dove dark chocolate, and it's 71% cacao. So first and foremost, it's high in antioxidants. So regardless of any performance enhancement, you do get certain, in fact, the antioxidant content has been touted as being higher than most fruits.
Wow.
So, yeah, obviously you're not going to eat chocolate in the same quantity you eat fruit, so probably kind of balances out.
Jonathan,
Don't tempt me.
It's tempting, right? And then I dug for this, and I know I have it, so I'll find it and I can cite it later. But there is a study that talks about how the blunting effects, we've talked about how mixing antioxidants with workouts kind of blunts some of the adaptive effects of the workouts. And so we steer people away from them. But as long as you get your antioxidants from food, it doesn't have the same level of bluntingness.
Oh, cool.
Blunting. So keep that in mind. Getting your antioxidants from food might not negate some of those benefits. So you could maybe find a better balance there.
Nice. I didn't know that.
And then another thing it contains is the polyphenols, which presumably also convey antioxidant effects. It's a contentious issue whether or not they do or don't. And then flavonols. So, and this is where you get overlap with the beet juice because of the nitric oxide. So, and then what the nitric oxide does is it stimulates arterial walls, what the flavonols do is stimulate the arterial walls, so the inner linings of your arteries to produce the nitric oxide. And the effect that has is it relaxes the arterial walls, which causes, better blood flow, hypotension or reduced blood pressure, and supposedly reduces the oxygen cost of working at submaximal performance levels. So we're talking subthreshold type of stuff. And as a side note, flavonols can actually supposedly protect against sun damage. Another nice little benefit. And then on top of that,
seems really good for cyclists.
Back to dark chocolate, a high percentage of the RDI, or the recommended daily intake of certain micronutrients, contains a fair amount of other in particular, theobromine is another vasodilator, so same effect really as the nitric oxide. And then caffeine, which might fly in the face of some of the benefits of the nitric oxide that we were just talking about. And it has been reported to have positive benefits on cholesterol levels, raises the high-density lipoproteins, the HDLs, protects the LDLs, which, we think of LDLs as bad cholesterol. They're not necessarily so, and they do become definitely bad when they become oxidized. So that's a threat to your heart health. But dark chocolate can also reduce insulin resistance, which seldom, if ever, a bad thing.
Yeah.
And it can improve blood flow to the brain, so higher levels of cognition. You feel a bit sharper, similar to caffeine.
I really like dark chocolate.
Yeah. Jonathan's eyes just lit up during this whole
favorite topic.
And on top of it, when you have the cacao percentage that high, it's lower in sugar. So some of the things it does get condemned for are toned down a bit.
Yeah. I wonder if cacao drinks will become a thing, for cyclists. I think I've actually seen some now that I think about it, but. And I wonder the whole process of when you actually process the beans and the denaturing that goes on as you go through that, I wonder how much it, changes it, or it'd be interesting to know. Because if they're testing something with Dove, no offense to Dove, but chances are it's probably not something that's really, handled in it's probably a mass-produced bar, that sort of thing.
It's the Mars company, right?
Yeah.
So they produce a lot of products.
Yeah. So I wonder if it's from a higher quality one, then it would be different.